Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am the artist known as, or AKA for short, and this series is called Eyes Shut Art, where I close my eyes, scribble on a piece of paper, and then try and come up with a piece of art from that. All while telling you, hopefully, an entertaining story. Alright, let's get into it. So, just as a precursor to this story, I want to give a little bit of a heads up, graphical warning in due time. I will be going into certain gory aspects of a nose injury. Obviously, you would have seen this by the title. So if that makes you uncomfortable in any way, just a heads up. Here we go. So this story starts with me walking down the beach. I'm headed home. This is in Hawaii, mind you. I had just moved to Hawaii after high school, so I had just graduated. I was living there and working on a TV show, and I think this was a Saturday or Sunday, but I'm walking back to my house, sun's setting, and I think this is a great time to go for a quick swim. You know, I'm walking right past the beach, nothing stopping me from getting a little 15-minute sunset swim in, you know? So, I hop over to the beach, jump in, I'm swimming out, and it could not have been within maybe a minute. I'm just swimming out, ducking under the waves, and one of the waves pushed me a little too farther down, and next thing I know, I'm face first with a coral on the bottom of the ocean. And granted, it was very shallow. I was still swimming out in the beginning of the ocean. It was probably maybe 5 feet, 6 feet deep, but I didn't realize there was coral under me already. Stupid, obviously. So boom, faceplant into the coral, and I popped up. Luckily, this was kind of a populated beach, so there was people around, and some guy with a boogie board, bodyboard, whatever you want to call it, immediately realized I was in trouble. I had blood just flooding out of my face. Huge cut on my nose, maybe about an inch long, and I popped up. He threw me his bodyboard. I grabbed it, caught a wave in. The lifeguard was running up to me, just blood dripping down my face. And they called the ambulance and everything. I'm sitting on the beach. And have you ever had this situation happen to you where, like, you're in a situation and you're stressed out and you want information, right? And people aren't giving you information? That's kind of how I felt there. So I'm someone who, when I get hurt, I like to mentally wrap my mind around it, and not knowing how bad the injury was because it was on my face and nose and I could not see it stressed me out probably 50 times more than it would have if I had cut my arm or my leg, you know? And I kept repeatedly asking the lifeguard, what's wrong with my nose? Like, can you describe it to me? Please, like, I'm stressed the fuck out right now. And they just kept saying, oh, you got like an inch laceration on your nose. And I'm in this just focused, stressed out mindset that I did not realize what laceration meant. In hindsight, it's kind of funny to me, but I was getting so angry. I was just yelling at this lifeguard, like, I don't understand what you mean. And he would not tell me, like, in like a layman's terms, what was wrong with my face. So I'm stressing out. The ambulance shows up. They're gonna take me to the hospital. And I'm walking with a lifeguard on one side, paramedic on the other, holding me up, walking me to the ambulance. And I just knew I was gonna faint, you know, like, just everything just started getting quiet, you know. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the ground, got taken to the hospital. And when you get cut by coral, if you don't know, if you're not versed in this, coral is a living organism and can attach itself to your body. So when you get cut by coral, you have to do everything that you can pretty much to make sure that that does not doesn't stay in you pretty much, because it will attach itself to you and start growing inside of you. So me with a cut on my nose, literally the bridge of my nose, I still have a semi-viewable scar of it. I go to the hospital, and the first thing they do is spray my nose with alcohol and scrub it with a literal toothbrush, just like as hard as they could. and I'm drugged up. I don't feel much pain at this point, but I distinctly remember them scrubbing the hell out of my nose, trying to get all the coral out. They sprayed it with alcohol, did all this stuff they needed to do, sewed me up, and this is also kind of a funny story. It also made me start wearing a hat, because I couldn't get sun on my face for 2 weeks. And living in Hawaii and not getting sun on your face is quite literally impossible unless you walk around with an umbrella or a gigantic hat. So I started wearing a big straw lifeguard hat pretty much everywhere I went from then on. That became my thing. I think I still have like 3 or 4 of them in my closet. But besides the fact, let me get back to the story. So I'm in the hospital, they sew me up, and I thought that was the end of it. I healed up, I took care of it, didn't let the sun get to the newly forming skin, so it healed well. And I went back to California for vacation and visited my friends and thought nothing of it. Then, cut to maybe 2 months later, I'm at my friend's house, just around the corner from mine, and we're having a party. And at that time, I still had kind of bad acne. It wasn't chronic, but I definitely had acne. And for the past few weeks, I had this bump that had been growing on my nose, kind of where the scar was. I wonder what that could be. Anyways, I thought it was acne, and I was at this party. I was kind of fucked up. I was still lucid, I wasn't blacked out or anything, but I went to the bathroom, and while I was washing my hands, my nose caught my eye, and I couldn't stop looking at that bump, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna mess with it. And so I poked at it, I poked at it a little bit, and then I saw this little tiny white string kind of in the middle of a bump or hole that was there. It was like, just looked like a pimple. It was like the size of a kind of normal pimple. But I pulled this string, and graphic, this might turn some people off, but I literally pulled about a 14-inch sewing string. That's what it looked like a white string out of my nose. It was about 14 inches long, and when I got to the end of it, it got stuck. It was like there was something there, it was still attached to something. So I pulled it again, and there was a little clear marble, just like the size of a tiny pebble attached to the end of it. And so I pulled this living organism right out of my face at a party, and and then I went and smoked about 10 cigarettes to fucking kill my stress. Tobacco's bad. Don't smoke tobacco. But yeah, that's what I did in that moment. And that's how I had to pull living coral out of my nose, and why you should be very careful to not get cut by coral. Especially face planting it. That might not be the best thing, but I can say I was very lucky, because that was maybe like 8 years ago. I'm losing track of time. I don't want to do the math, but I've been fine since. But I still have a scar on my nose, and I still distinctly almost remember everything about that. And I can tell you, as much of a entertaining story as that is to me now, it wasn't that fun in the moment. So if I can give you any sort of lesson from this, is clean your cuts if you get cut by coral, or just don't get cut by coral. But don't let that scare you from the ocean, I love the ocean. All right, I'm getting off a tangent. Bye.